Yo, this Lil Durk situation just took another turn, and before anybody runs with that headline, you need to hear what is actually happening behind those walls, because the internet is already turning rumors into facts. People are claiming Durk was targeted inside jail. But here is the problem nobody wants to mention. I have not found credible confirmation that Lil Durk was physically attacked. And somehow, the confirmed story might be even crazier. Durk is still fighting his federal murder-for-hire case. The allegations against him are extremely serious, and prosecutors previously pointed to his behavior while incarcerated when arguing against his release. His legal team, meanwhile, has pushed back against his detention conditions. Now think about that for a second. This is Lil Durk, one of Chicago's biggest rap stars, sitting inside a federal detention facility, while almost every move connected to his name becomes news outside. A phone call becomes a headline. A jail allegation becomes a headline. One rumor hits social media, and suddenly thousands of people are saying Durk got targeted, before anybody even asks where the information came from. But this is where the story gets uncomfortable. Because being famous behind bars does not mean you control the narrative anymore. The public hears fragments. Social media fills in the blanks. And Durk cannot simply jump online and respond every time something goes viral. So the real question is not just, was Lil Durk targeted? It is, who benefits from making everybody believe he was? Because once you see what happened before these rumors started circulating, this story begins looking completely different. And once you understand what has been happening around Lil Durk recently, you start seeing why every rumor coming from behind those walls catches fire almost instantly. Because Durk is not sitting in custody dealing with some minor situation that disappeared from the headlines. He is approaching one of the biggest legal battles of his life. Durk, whose legal name is Durk Banks, has remained in federal custody since October 2024 while fighting serious federal allegations connected to an alleged murder-for-hire plot, allegations he has pleaded not guilty to. And now his trial is scheduled to begin in August 2026. But here is where things recently got interesting. Durk's defense team scored an important courtroom victory after challenging prosecutors over newly added allegations and charges that arrived close to trial. The judge ultimately agreed to separate certain newer counts from the upcoming Los Angeles trial, meaning the original case can move forward without all of those additional accusations being tried together. That does not mean Durk's case disappeared, and it definitely does not mean he was found innocent or guilty. What it means is that his attorneys successfully convinced the court that some of these issues should be handled separately. And when you are already sitting behind bars waiting for a jury, every legal development like that becomes huge. Now imagine what happens online when people hear Durk got a courtroom win. Immediately, you start seeing people saying he is coming home. Then somebody takes it further and says he has already been released. Then another page posts an old picture with a breaking news caption, and suddenly thousands of fans are celebrating something that never happened. That actually happened recently when a viral claim suggested Durk had been released, even though reporting indicated he remained in federal custody. And this is exactly why the targeted in jail conversation needs the same level of caution. Right now, there is a major difference between people online claiming something happened to Durk behind bars and credible confirmation that he was physically attacked. I have not seen reliable reporting establishing that Durk was attacked inside the facility. But do not mistake that for saying nothing serious is happening around him. The confirmed situation already has enough pressure without adding something nobody has proven. Durk is incarcerated, his freedom is on the line, prosecutors are pursuing serious charges, his attorneys are aggressively fighting the government's case, and millions of people outside are analyzing every development. Think about the psychological pressure surrounding that. When Durk was free, if somebody started a crazy rumor about him, he could potentially respond publicly, post something, speak through an interview, or let his team address it. Behind bars, that ability to control the conversation becomes completely different. Other people become the messengers. Lawyers speak through court filings. Fans interpret fragments. Blogs repeat claims. Social media accounts compete to post the craziest headline first. Before long, the rumor becomes bigger than whatever actually happened. And this is where you have to ask a question nobody asks when these stories start trending. Where did the information come from originally? Not who reposted it. Not which page put dramatic music behind it. Who actually knows? Because if there is no court filing, no statement from his attorneys, no credible reporting, and no verifiable source attached to a claim that Durk was attacked, then calling that claim confirmed would be irresponsible. But there is another reason people are watching his situation so closely. Durk has reportedly experienced restrictive detention conditions during his incarceration, and his legal team has previously challenged aspects of how he was being held. That history makes any new jail rumor sound believable before people even verify it. Add Durk's fame, his history in Chicago rap, the people associated with his career, the allegations in this federal case, and the enormous attention surrounding his name, and you have the perfect environment for misinformation to explode. But now we are approaching the moment where internet theories are going to matter a lot less than what happens inside a courtroom. August is getting closer. A jury is eventually going to hear evidence. Prosecutors will have to prove their allegations, and Durk's attorneys will have the opportunity to challenge the government's case. That is where the real fight is. And after the judge's recent decision separating certain charges, the legal strategy just became even more interesting. Because while everybody online is asking whether somebody targeted Lil Durk inside jail, his attorneys have been targeting something completely different: the structure of the government's case. And they just got the judge to agree with them on an important issue. So maybe the biggest threat to the narrative everybody has been following is not something happening inside a cell block at all. Maybe it is what just happened inside that courtroom, because the closer Durk gets to trial, the more carefully everybody needs to watch what prosecutors can actually prove. And that courtroom fight is exactly where this story becomes more serious than the viral posts. Because when somebody is facing allegations this heavy, the difference between what prosecutors claim and what they can prove beyond a reasonable doubt is everything. Lil Durk has pleaded not guilty, and until a jury reaches a verdict, the allegations against him remain allegations. That sounds obvious, but you would never know it from scrolling through social media, where people have already created their own endings to this case. Some viewers are convinced Durk is finished. Others are convinced he is walking free. Then you have people analyzing lyrics, old interviews, friendships, photographs, and random clips like they personally have access to the government's entire evidence file. But a federal courtroom does not operate like a comment section. Prosecutors have to present admissible evidence. The defense gets to challenge that evidence. Witnesses can face cross-examination, and jurors ultimately have to decide whether the government met its burden. That is why the recent legal developments matter. When Durk's attorneys challenged how certain newer allegations would be handled, they were not arguing with bloggers or trying to win a trending topic. They were making strategic decisions that could affect how jurors eventually hear the case. Separating accusations can matter because a jury hearing multiple allegations at once could potentially view everything as one giant story, while handling certain charges separately forces each case to stand more clearly on its own evidence. And this is where Durk's defense has an enormous job ahead of it, because prosecutors have publicly laid out a serious theory of what they believe happened. The defense, meanwhile, has disputed the government's narrative and previously argued that prosecutors have mischaracterized material connected to Durk. That conflict is going to become crucial once both sides are standing in front of jurors instead of filing paperwork. But while the legal teams prepare, Durk is still living the reality of incarceration every day. That is why rumors about him being targeted spread so easily. People know he is famous. They know his music contains stories about street conflict and loss. They know his name has been connected publicly to years of rap rivalries and personal tragedy. So when somebody posts that something happened to him behind bars, it sounds believable enough for people to repost without checking. But believable and verified are two completely different things. If somebody claims Durk was physically attacked, targeted by another inmate, rushed to medical care, moved for protection, or involved in some dramatic jail confrontation, there needs to be evidence before any of that gets presented as fact. Otherwise, we are not reporting a story, We are helping manufacture one. And Durk's situation does not need manufactured drama. The confirmed reality is already intense enough. He is a Grammy-winning rapper who went from performing in front of enormous crowds to waiting inside federal custody for a trial that could dramatically affect the rest of his life. Think about that contrast. The same person whose voice reached millions of listeners now has major decisions about his future happening through attorneys, motions, hearings, and judicial rulings. That is a level of pressure most people watching from home cannot fully understand. And there's another layer people keep overlooking. Every public claim surrounding Durk can influence perception before jury selection even begins. His attorneys need jurors who can evaluate evidence rather than internet narratives, while prosecutors need to prove their case inside the rules of the courtroom. Meanwhile, social media keeps creating an unofficial trial every 24 hours. One day Durk is supposedly getting released. The next day somebody claims prosecutors have a secret piece of evidence. Then suddenly there is a jail rumor, and everybody starts discussing his safety. That cycle can make it almost impossible for casual viewers to separate actual developments from engagement bait. So if you really want to understand where Durk stands, stop measuring this case by viral posts, and start watching the court calendar. Watch which evidence the judge allows. Watch which witnesses prosecutors actually call. Watch what Durk's lawyers challenge. Watch what survives cross-examination. Those details will tell us far more than somebody posting breaking news over an old photograph. And this is where the unexpected turn could come, because federal cases can look completely different once prosecutors are required to present their evidence in front of a jury. Evidence that sounds devastating in an indictment can be challenged. Defense arguments that sound convincing outside court can collapse under testimony. Either side can encounter surprises. Nobody knows the verdict yet. But one thing is clear: as Durk gets closer to trial, the biggest battle surrounding his name is not happening on social media or inside some unverified jail story. It is happening through the legal process, where every ruling, every witness, and every piece of evidence could move him closer to one of two completely different futures. And those two futures are exactly why every development surrounding Lil Durk feels heavier now. Because this is no longer just another rap controversy where somebody responds with a record, jumps on Instagram Live, and the internet moves on 3 days later. Durk is dealing with a federal prosecution that could have enormous consequences for his freedom, his family, and the career he spent years building. And that reality makes all the noise surrounding his incarceration feel almost secondary. Yet somehow, the rumors keep becoming the story. One account says something happened behind bars, another account claims Durk was moved, somebody else says there was a confrontation, and within hours people are discussing these claims as if they personally witnessed them. But here is what nobody should lose sight of: unless credible reporting, court records, his legal team, or another reliable source confirms a specific jail incident, we cannot tell you that an attack happened. What we can tell you is that Durk's circumstances have already generated serious debate about how he has been treated while detained. His attorneys have previously raised concerns about restrictive conditions, and those arguments became another battleground between the defense and the government. That matters because incarceration does not stop being consequential simply because somebody is famous. If anything, fame can make the environment surrounding a defendant more complicated. Everybody knows the name. People recognize the face. Stories travel outside almost instantly, and sometimes the outside world hears a version of an event before anybody has established whether the event even happened. Now add Durk's celebrity status to the pressure of preparing for trial, and you begin to understand why this situation is so different from the way social media presents it. Durk is not simply sitting around waiting for somebody to tell him what happens next. His defense team is actively challenging the prosecution, examining evidence, filing motions, questioning how allegations should be presented, and preparing to confront the government's theory before a jury. Every successful motion can change the battlefield. Every unsuccessful motion can narrow the defense's options. Every ruling can determine what jurors hear and what they never see. That is where this case could turn in ways nobody on social media can predict. And remember, an indictment tells you what prosecutors allege. It does not tell you what a jury will ultimately believe after hearing both sides. That distinction is everything. Prosecutors may present evidence they believe connects Durk to the alleged conduct. His attorneys can attack the interpretation, reliability, context, or admissibility of that evidence. Witnesses may strengthen one side's case or create new questions. Something that looked straightforward in court documents can become complicated under cross-examination. Something the public ignored could become crucial. That is why anybody promising you they already know exactly how this trial ends is selling confidence they cannot possibly have. But there is another element here that should concern Durk's team: public perception. By the time a major celebrity case reaches trial, millions of people may have already consumed headlines, clips, theories, lyrics, commentary videos, and rumors about the defendant. Finding jurors who can genuinely evaluate only what is presented in court becomes incredibly important. And every viral claim about Durk being attacked, threatened, released, convicted, cleared, or secretly cooperating adds another layer of misinformation floating around his name. Some rumors make him look sympathetic. Others make him look dangerous. Neither should substitute for evidence. That is why the smartest way to follow this story is to keep asking one simple question: what can actually be verified? Because once you start doing that, the sensational claims get separated from the developments that could truly change Durk's future. A court ruling is real. A filed motion is real. A trial date is real. An attorney making an argument on the record is something we can examine. A random post claiming somebody targeted Durk behind bars without providing credible evidence is something completely different. And ironically, while everybody keeps looking inside the jail for the next shocking twist, the most important developments may continue happening inside courtrooms where cameras are not creating viral clips. That is where prosecutors will eventually have to show what they have. That is where Durk's lawyers will get their opportunity to challenge it. And that is where 12 jurors could ultimately determine what the next chapter of his life looks like. So the question is shifting now. It is no longer simply whether Lil Durk was targeted behind bars. The bigger question is whether the case being built against him can survive the scrutiny that comes when allegations finally have to become evidence. Evidence has to withstand challenges, and a jury has to decide what it actually believes. And what that jury eventually believes could make every viral headline surrounding Lil Durk look tiny by comparison, because right now people are watching this case like the ending has already been written when the most important chapter has not even played out in front of jurors yet. That is the strange reality of a celebrity federal case. The internet wants a verdict long before the courtroom delivers one. Durk has supporters who believe the government's case will fall apart, critics who assume the allegations must be true because prosecutors filed charges, and millions of people somewhere in the middle trying to figure out what is real. But none of those opinions determine what happens next. Evidence does. Testimony does. Judicial rulings do. And eventually, the jury does. That is why the closer Durk gets to trial, the less useful these unverified jail stories become. Think about how quickly the targeted narrative grabbed attention. It sounds dangerous. It sounds urgent. It sounds like exactly the kind of story people will click before asking questions. But when you start looking for reliable confirmation of a physical attack, the certainty disappears. That should tell you something about the environment surrounding Durk right now. His name is valuable online. A dramatic headline involving Lil Durk can generate views before anybody verifies the details. And once enough pages repeat the same claim, people begin assuming repetition equals confirmation. It does not. 10 accounts repeating one unsupported story still gives you one unsupported story. Meanwhile, there are real developments happening that deserve more attention. Durk's lawyers are preparing for a federal trial. They have challenged aspects of the government's case, disputed interpretations of evidence, and fought over how allegations should be presented. Prosecutors, on the other hand, are preparing to convince jurors that their evidence supports the charges they brought. Neither side gets to win because social media likes its version better. And this is where the pressure on Durk becomes difficult to imagine. Every morning behind bars is another day away from the life he had before his arrest. The concerts are gone. The freedom to move around is gone. The ability to speak directly to millions whenever he wants is dramatically limited. Instead, his future is being discussed through legal arguments, while strangers online create news stories about him almost daily. One day people claim he is coming home. Another day people claim something happened to him inside. Then somebody posts an old video without context, and suddenly that becomes evidence for a completely different theory. That constant misinformation creates a version of Durk's story that can become detached from reality. But the courtroom has a way of forcing everybody back towards specifics. Who said what? When did they say it? What records exist? What evidence connects which person to which alleged act? Can a witness be trusted? Is there another explanation? Was evidence obtained and presented properly? Those questions are not as flashy as Lil Durk targeted in jail. But those are the questions that could decide his future. And there is another unexpected angle here. The closer the trial gets, the more important silence can become. Durk does not need to answer every internet rumor. His attorneys do not need to chase every viral post. Their audience is not the comment section. Their most important audience will eventually be the jurors sitting inside that courtroom. Every decision has to be measured against that reality. Sometimes the smartest move is not responding at all, even when millions of people are demanding an explanation. And that silence creates a vacuum that social media loves filling with speculation. So if another dramatic Durk story suddenly appears tomorrow, ask yourself 3 things before believing it. Who originally reported it? What evidence supports it? And whether any credible source independently confirmed it. That simple check can separate an actual development from somebody farming engagement with Durk's name. Because there is already enough at stake here without inventing anything. A major rap artist remains behind bars facing serious federal allegations he denies. His defense is fighting aggressively. Prosecutors are preparing their case. His supporters are watching every ruling for signs of hope, while critics are watching for developments that strengthen the government's position. And somewhere underneath all that noise is Durk himself, waiting for the moment when the accusations stop being headlines and become arguments presented before jurors. That is when we will finally begin seeing which pieces of this story matter, and which ones were nothing more than internet smoke. So maybe Durk is being targeted in one undeniable way right now, just not the way those viral posts want you to believe. His name is being targeted for clicks, rumors, theories, and engagement every single day. And the wildest twist may be that while everybody keeps searching for danger behind those jail walls, the decision that changes everything will happen somewhere much quieter, with lawyers standing before a jury and asking 12 people to decide what they believe happened. Now I need to know where you stand on this Lil Durk situation, because there is a massive difference between what is actually happening in his federal case and what people online are claiming is happening behind those walls. Do you believe there is more to these reports about Durk allegedly being targeted? Or do you think his name is being used because anything connected to Lil Durk instantly gets attention? Drop your opinion in the comments, but tell me why, because this conversation is bigger than picking a side. And here is the question I really want answered. With Durk getting closer to trial, do you believe the evidence presented in court will completely change the public narrative around this case? Because once witnesses start testifying and both sides have to defend their arguments in front of jurors, internet theories are not going to matter nearly as much. If you want us to keep separating the verified developments from the viral rumors everybody keeps repeating, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this story is moving and one courtroom decision could change everything. Send this video to somebody who follows Durk and ask them what they believe is really happening. And remember, do not let a dramatic headline make the decision for you. Follow the evidence, watch what happens in court, and question anything that cannot be verified. Because with Lil Durk, the next headline could explode overnight. But the truth behind that headline might tell a completely different story.